I offer my prayerful salutations at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, loving Sairam to you all. Thank you, Sister Roshika, for your kind introduction. I would like to begin tonight's satsang with a short story that Swami himself has narrated. The Mughal Emperor Akbar had once posed a question to his very wise minister, Birbal. He wanted to know, why is it that God himself decided to come down as an avatar when he could have ordered any of the other deities to do his work? And we've heard Swami say, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara are my managers. So why did the Lord himself have to come down as an avatar? Birbal asked for some time. And what he did was he arranged for a demonstration. So it's very clear, right? When you give an answer, it's one thing, but when you actually demonstrate and show it, it stays in someone's memory. So he arranged for a demonstration. It was a hot summer afternoon, and the emperor wanted to take a leisurely boat ride in the palace. It was a beautiful big palace, and there was a lake in there. So they're going down. As they're getting to the middle of the lake, where it's the deepest, what Birbal does is he arranges for what appears to look like the prince, the king's son. He arranges for a structure, a doll, and he pushes it down into the water. And when the emperor thought his son had fallen into the lake, he immediately wanted to jump in to rescue his son. And that is when Birbal stopped the emperor and said, "Oh, Jahanpana, this was not your son. It is just a doll." And naturally, the emperor is angered and he demands an explanation. He says, "Why would you pull a prank like this? It's very unbecoming of you." And Birbal, in turn, boldly asked the emperor back in response with a question. And he said, "Jahanpana, why did you choose to dive in? You could have ordered me. You could have ordered any of your guards, the boatmen, any of us. You could have told us, jump and rescue your child. Why did you do it yourself?" Now, Akbar was a wise king. He immediately connected the dots and he understood what Birbal was trying to explain. And Birbal showed him how, out of his immense love and affection for his devotees, God himself decides to come down as an avatar. He sees that there is an acute need and he comes down as an avatar. It is, in many ways, it's no different than a mother bending down to pick up her child, her infant, and take the child to her bosom. You've heard me share my personal experiences in the previous satsangs. My earliest memory of Swami is seeing him in Sundaram, Swami's ashram in Chennai, where I grew up. I was a young child. I don't remember how old I was, maybe 6 or 7 years of old. But the earliest memory I have is just being awestruck with this whole phenomenon of darshan. Now, I did go to a lot of temples, and in temples, you see, we do pradakshinas. We go around the sanctum sanctorum. We take sweets as prasad. We take flowers. Sometimes we take vastram, fabric, and we offer it to the deity. But here was this God who walked among the devotees who were comfortably seated in cushions. He would come up to the devotees and say, "Here, is there a problem? Let me take your letter. Oh, you look like you're sick. Let me materialize vibhuti for you." He would pat somebody on the cheek. And just looking at that, I knew that this is a God who is filled with love. And this is a God I'm actually getting to interact and be in close quarters with. And I knew at that moment that he must have immense love for everybody. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel that way. And even as a child, I could sense and experience that love. In his very first public discourse given during Dashera, 1953, Swami declared that the first 16 years of his life, of his sojourn on earth, would go in leelas. These are the divine pranks that we are all very fond of hearing from old-time devotees. The next 16 years, he said, would be marked by mahimas. These are amazing miracles, mind-boggling miracles. And after that, after the 32nd year, Swami said he would engage more and more in upadesha, in teachings, in guiding humanity to the right path. And true to his word, He's Sathya Sai Baba, Satya Narayana, true to his word. At exactly the 32nd year of his life, in 1958, Swami announced the launch of the Sanatana Sarathi monthly magazine. And as Sister Rushika mentioned in her opening remarks, Swami himself started contributing content, and he sat and wrote these Vahinis for each of these issues of this magazine. Now, every avatar before Swami has also given Upadesha, has given lectures, spiritual lectures. And the cover of the Prema Vahini is a beautiful picture of Lord Krishna. I have the book right here next to me. And Lord Krishna too gave wise counsel to Arjuna in the Gita. And it was passed down to all of us. And now we are able to read the verses and read the story of Mahabharata. Bible was the teachings of Jesus by his disciples. Never before done by any avatar. Never before. The Vahinis are handwritten by Swami himself. And therefore, it's directly from the source. It is not watered down. It is not second-hand information. It is not somebody saying, I heard Swami say this. Swami himself put pen to paper and he wrote his teachings, because for posterity, he wanted us to be able to go back in and reflect on his teachings. And the beautiful thing is, Swami was so busy at that time, 1958 time frame. He was much younger then, in his 30s. He was traveling extensively, the length and breadth of India. He would go to the remotest corners in Andhra, in Madras Presidency. He would travel to these places to spread his message so people come to know about him, to educate mankind. And still he found time between his darshans and his travels and his train rides and car rides. Swami found time. There are some beautiful pictures if you look online of Swami sitting down and writing. Whether these were the Vahinis themselves or other letters, we don't know. But there are these beautiful pictures, and you can see how much time Swami painstakingly took to write each Vahini. The very first series of articles that he wrote for the Sanatana Sarathi, this was in 1958, was Prema Vahini, the topic of discussion today. And Prema, as we all know, is love, and Vahini means stream. So Prema Vahini is a stream of love, his divine love for all of us. And in Sri Lanka, you have all undertaken the Parayana of 2 chapters of Prema Vahini every day for the last several years, for the last several weeks. Brother Manoharan tells me that from the end of May, you started around May 27th time frame. And over the last few weeks, you have been doing this Parayana. And once a week, you have been meeting for a discussion, a study circle, both in Tamil and in Sinhalese languages. This truly demonstrates your love and your respect for Swami and his teachings. Those of you who hadn't read the Prema Vahini before this initiative started by a national council, before you embarked upon reading and the discussion of Prema Vahini, you may have thought that the Prema Vahini would naturally be about Prema. It would be all about love, about Swami's love for us and our love for him. But now that you've actually read and had the discussions, you know that Prema Vahini is just a symbolism of Swami's love for us. As he tells us in the Prema Vahini, through all the chapters, he actually shows us how to live our life. That is our Bible. He shows us how to live our life. I would like to read an excerpt from Prema Vahini, chapter 2. I quote, "Mere reading of a book or journal will not vouchsafe discrimination. That which is seen, heard, or read must be put into practice in actual life. Without this, reading is a mere waste of time. If anything is read to pass the time, it passes the time and nothing remains." This is from chapter 2, unquote. Now that you've completed a discussion on the Prema Vahini, it is time for all of us to reflect on what we can actually take and practice in our lives. Now, I'm being practical here. We won't be able to take the book and start practicing everything that's in the book the very next day. Everything in moderation, Swami says. We can take at least one thing that resonated with us, one area where we feel needs improvement for our personal growth. Take one thing, and if we start putting it into practice, as time goes, we can add another thing and another thing and another thing. And the beauty of Swami's teachings, if we start practicing one value, If you start practicing love, you'll automatically start practicing dharma and ahimsa, all of the other values. In many professions, they say that they are in practice. They use the word practice. It could be practicing medicine, practicing law. And our profession, if you would, if I may use the word, because it's not a pastime being a Sai devotee. Swami says, don't be part-time devotees, be full-time devotees. And then he will grant us the PhD, call us the pure-hearted devotee. Swami says, what we should do is practice, take his teachings and practice them. We too, like the lawyers do, like the doctors do, like the physicians do, practice Swami's teachings. And just like in medicine or in law, the more we practice, the better we'll get. That applies to Swami's teachings as well, and they'll become a part of our life. It is said, Darshanam Papanashanam, the very sight of the Lord destroys all sins. Sambhashanam, Sankatanashanam, having a conversation, having the opportunity to speak with the Lord, to hear from the Lord, and to converse with the Lord, it removes all grief. Sparshanam, Karma Vimochanam, the touch when the Lord touches us, the very touch of the Lord when he touches our head, when we take his Pada Namaskar, the touch of the Lord liberates us from all karmic bonds. Think about it, brothers and sisters. One look and touch from Swami had the most powerful effect on us. And that's why I'm sure you agree with me, those of you who've been fortunate to be in Swami's physical presence and have his divine darshans and take his Pada Namaskar, have the opportunity to converse with him. I'm sure you have experienced this, and I have experienced this many times as a teenager and during my adult life. When you're in Swami's presence, even if no words are exchanged, when he just passes by you and just glances at you, your whole body shakes. You have this feeling of like shaking, and in a positive way, and your tears just flow from your eyes without even your knowledge. When we are in Swami's presence, we've all experienced this. And today we experience his omnipresence when we are in our altars, when we see a Sai incidents where he chooses to be anonymous, and we feel his presence, where you were bothered about something and someone sends you a quote or a message, a video message that answers your questions. We continue to feel Swami's presence. A Westerner named Dr. Frank Baranowski, he was an expert at studying auras. He once described Swami as love walking on 2 feet. What a beautiful description for Swami. Who is Sathya Sai Baba? Oh, he's love walking on 2 feet. That's a beautiful description. He was studying Swami's aura for several days. This was in Vrindavan, Swami's ashram in Whitefield. And he says Swami's aura was pink. That is the color that denotes love, universal love. And he said it was so vast. There are articles about this online if you want to look it up. It was so huge, so vast, and so strong that it extended beyond anything he in his life until that time had ever seen. And he said in all his years practicing, he said he didn't have a scientific explanation because the phenomenon was so unique. We are talking about the Lord after all, the avatar. A devotee from Southern California composed a beautiful poem. And this was later turned into a song that I have actually taught my Bal Vikas SSC children in my center. It goes like this. Love is ice cream, very sweet. Love is Swami's special treat. There are a couple more lines. I'll just read it to you as a poem. Love is ice cream, very sweet. Love is Swami's special treat. Love is giving someone else the things you wanted for yourself. Love is in Sai Baba's eyes, and it makes the bluebirds fly. Love is ice cream, very, very sweet. In 1989, this poem, this song, was sung in front of Swami in the mandir by a group of devotees in Southern California, and Swami enjoyed it immensely. And I'm reminded of the time when Swami would distribute ice cream to the students. And he would distribute joy ice cream. He would say, Jesus first, others next, yourself last. Only Swami can make these, a play on words like this, which we would have never thought about. Swami would distribute ice cream cups, and these would typically be vanilla ice cream. And as we all know, vanilla ice cream is white in color. And Swami once went near the primary school children and he asked, children, what is God like? They were busy eating their ice cream. They were focusing on the ice cream. Yes, Swami, tell us, you only tell us. And Swami said, God is just like this ice cream you're eating. God is cool like ice cream. He's pure white like this vanilla ice cream. And he's soft like ice cream. A little bit of warmth and the sigh in our hearts melts. Just like the butter, when you keep it outside, take it from the fridge and keep it in room temperature. Keep it near the stove. After sometimes it becomes soft. Like that Swami said, he's soft like the ice cream. In our bhajans, and I know you have very many beautiful singers with beautiful voices in Sri Lanka. In our bhajans, we often refer to Swami as Prema Sagara, the ocean of love. Professor Sampath, who was the Vice Chancellor of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning during my college days in Anantapur, he was deeply moved and became very emotional one time. And he addressed Swami and he said, oh, Swami, your love, you are an ocean of love, Swami, Prema Sagara. Swami paused, he smiled, and he said, and he corrected Professor Sampath, a senior devotee. And he said, Sampath, yes, the ocean is large, is deep, but it still has boundaries. We have the two shores. My love for humanity has no boundaries. Look at that. What a beautiful explanation from Swami. And there are many, many stories. Like if I open it up for a discussion and ask everybody to share one story where you feel touched by Swami's love, I'm sure we can write multiple volumes of stories of Swami's love from devotees in Sri Lanka. And I'd like to share beautiful, which I found very touching. It may even bring a smile to your face. This is from Professor Kasturi's autobiography, Loving God, which is one of my favorite, all-time go-to favorite books. And he recollects a very sweet and somewhat embarrassing incident. Once when he was riding in the car with Swami, Swami distributed apples to the others who were riding in the car with him. I may have shared this before at a satsang with all of you. But Professor Kasturi, he had a predicament. He was wearing dentures and he was hesitating to take a bite to the apple because he didn't know if, because of the skin, the thick skin, if his dentures would get lodged in the apple and it would be very awkward with others in the car. He jokes that he even debated lowering the windows and throwing the apple out so nobody would know. But this little predicament, it didn't miss Swami's eyes. Swami is the all-knowing. Before Professor Kasturi could say anything, use his words to communicate anything, Swami peeled the skin very patiently and offered Professor Kasturi pieces of the apple. That is his love. This is not just this is for everybody. Orissa, when the state of Orissa had severe floods, this happened many years ago. There were terrible floods in Orissa, and Orissa is one of the poorer states in India. Swami had arranged to send truckloads, many truckloads of supplies, relief items for those who were affected. Sevadals from that state and from neighboring states, Swami sent supplies even from Prashanti. He ordered and he sent many supplies to them. And when one of the devotees who was a professor in Swami's college, who hailed from the state of Orissa, he was very touched. And on behalf of all of the beneficiaries, he praised Swami. And sometimes we think, we should do that. Oh, you did something. Oh, you spoke so beautifully. We praise the person. We say, oh, you did a great job as a seva coordinator. And he was trying to not flatter, but he was acknowledging and he was praising Swami. And Swami listened very patiently. He wasn't very amused at all. And then Swami asked this professor, do you have any children of your own? And the professor answered, yes, Swami, I do have children. Then Swami said, if your son falls and gets hurt or needs help, and you go and help him, do you expect him to offer gratitude to you? Don't you feel it's your duty? And don't you do it lovingly and willingly without him asking for it? Swami says, all of this world, all of humanity are my children, and I am the loving mother. I will respond even if I'm not called. And the word he uses is, when the devotee says, Swami, enta shrama tiskunnaru. Swami, you took so much effort. You put in so much effort. And Swami responds, Bangaru, idi shrama kadu, idi prema. This is not effort. It's not difficult work. This is love. Imagine if every time we did anything in the name of Sai, we did it with this attitude. Swami, I'm teaching a Balvikas class. Oh, I have to research. I have to prepare the material. Another few hours gone. I could be doing something else instead. Oh, it's a Saturday. It's a Sunday morning here. I could take the family and go to the lake. But we have a Seva project to go to. If instead of thinking like this, if we didn't think of it as effort and we only looked at it as love, with the same love that the Lord of the universe had when he was serving us. Swami says he's the servitor of us all. If we had that same attitude, just imagine how beautiful this world would be. If there was one word that Swami did not like did not like the devotees to use and refer to themselves, it was the word anatha. And sometimes if somebody lost a parent or lost both parents, they would go crying to Swami and say, oh, Swami, I've now been orphaned. I'm an anatha. And Swami would say, no, the only person who can take the title of anatha is God himself. Because the word anatha means one without a leader. I am there for all of you. I am here to look after you. I am the only person who can say I am anatha. And it is very true. He is there for all of us, no matter whether we are alone, grahastha, no matter what stage of life we are in, we have Swami's love with us. During one of the earlier satsangs with all of you, I've shared this incident from Tapovanam, and I think this is worth repeating. Swami himself repeated his messages over the many, many thousands of discourses he's given. And if you have not attended the previous session, I think it's worth repeating the story. I shouldn't call it a story, then it becomes, it puts that suspicion in our doubting Thomas minds. Was it fictional? This was a true incident, an experience is what I should call it. It appears in the Tapovanam. This is during one of Swami's earlier visits. The 60s Swami would visit Chennai very, very often. He would take road trips from Prashanti in the car. And Swami was visiting Chennai, and he was scheduled to give a discourse in a hall named SAP Kalyana Mandapam. And Sri Chittur Nagaya, a famous character actor who's played the roles of Tyagaraja, and he's acted in beautiful Tamil movies and Telugu movies as well, probably Kannada too. He was the translator. So Swami would speak in Telugu. Given that this was in Chennai, the translator would then translate it into Tamil. Swami was giving his discourse, and right in the middle of the discourse, everybody was disturbed because there was a baby in the mother's lap wailing, screaming at the top of the baby's lungs. Everybody turned, everybody was disturbed naturally. They were turning and looking around being disturbed. This caught Swami's attention too. So Swami stopped giving the divine discourse. He looked towards that child. He raised his hands in Abhayahasta and he brought his fist to a close. He whispered, now the narrator's confused. He's bedazzled. He's wondering what is going on. And while he does that, the cries stop. As mysteriously as it had begun, as suddenly as it had begun, it stopped. Swami, knowing that the translator is bewildered, Swami whispered into his ears. And the narrator was so excited that he couldn't contain his emotions. He burst out into the mic and said, Swami saved the life of this baby. What had happened was a small 25 paise coin was lodged in the baby's mouth. The mother was enamored with Swami, listening to Swami's discourse. Somehow the child, maybe from the purse or the mother's lap, sometimes it happens, something can fall from your purse. The baby had somehow managed to find this coin, and babies have a tendency to put everything in their mouth. Imagine the baby's in the mother's lap. How much closer can the baby be to its own mother? The mother was blissfully unaware. Swami, who was so many, many feet away, he knew and came to the rescue of this child. That is Swami's love. In Satyam Shivam Sundaram, Volume 7, a beautiful incident has been documented. Around the time that the super specialty hospital started, the 90s, it was a practice that Swami would visit the hospital after morning bhajans, like around 10 o'clock time frame. Swami would finish his rounds, take arati, and the car would be brought, and Swami would hop in the car and he would go take a few senior devotees with him to go to the hospital and see how the work is going. And sometimes he would go and visit certain patients, certain senior devotees who were taking treatment there. This morning, Swami just walked in. He was not surrounded. There was no paraphernalia. He didn't have a lot of people behind him. Swami walked in and he was not in his golf cart. Swami looked very pensive, very focused. He always is, but he looked very pensive. And he started approaching the ICU, the ward where after surgery people would be monitored there. Patients who were recovering would be kept there. And Swami went towards the bed of a lady, a young lady who was recovering. And Swami, just no words exchanged. Swami went to her and she had tears in her eyes. Swami materialized vibhuti, gave it to her. He turned around and he left. Of course, the lady was in tears. And the person who narrated this, who shares this story, he explains that he became curious. He wondered, was there some senior devotee who was ill? Is that why Swami came? And he wanted to, the curiosity gets better of us. And he really wanted to know, why is it that Swami made this trip? He couldn't have come all the way just for this one lady here in this ward. And then he did some research. He asked some questions. And then he found out that there was no other senior devotee taking any treatment that day. And Swami had come with the purpose of purpose of attending to this devotee's concerns. Then he found out that this lady, she was a young woman, a laborer who was a farmer in one of the nearby villages. And she was in the middle of a pregnancy, first time. She was carrying the baby. For the first time, she was pregnant. But she had some heart complications and she had to undergo surgery for the heart complications. Unfortunately, she lost the baby. An abortion took place and she lost the baby. So she was reeling from the effects of two surgeries. One, she had her heart surgery and she had lost the baby. Her cries, thinking she's all alone and she feels all hope is lost, reached Swami in the mandir, and Swami rushed there to respond to her prayers. He listens to all of our prayers, no matter what it is we are going through in our life. Phyllis Crystal was on a plane one time, and you may have read about this. The plane was hijacked by terrorists. Can someone be in a more desperate situation, more hopeless situation? This is a different kind of a hopeless situation than the one from the previous experience. She was there glued to her chair. Everybody is told to be quiet and there's panic. Nobody knows what to do and they're blindly following the instructions given by the hijackers. And Swami was guiding her. Now, Phyllis Crystal, she's passed on now. She lived close to the ripe age of 100. And she practiced meditation and she was able to travel to different planes in her meditation. And she's trained many, many devotees in that path. Swami was sending her, even at that time, she tried to breathe in and she was trying to be calm. And Swami communicated to her and he was guiding her to send love to these devotees. She says she started breathing in Swami's love and she was breathing out Swami's love. The entire plane loaded with passengers was saved because it was filled with Swami's divine love. Just by a mere visualization of Swami's love, she was able to save the flight from these fearsome hijackers. Swami's love can make anything happen. I'd now like to read another excerpt, a short excerpt from the Prema Vahini, because that is the topic for the day. And this is from chapter 4. Each one should ask themselves this question. Great souls, Mahatmas, and outstanding sages were also people like me. They were also embodied beings. If they could attain perfection, so can I, if I follow their method. Oftentimes, and this I have been through this as well, we think that Swami is this ideal, this perfect role model. He's the perfect example. But we say, oh, but he was God. Of course, he's going to be perfect. How can we ever achieve? How can we ever attain that gold standard, that bar that Swami has set? But as we heard in this excerpt, as we read, here Swami says, even the Mahatmas and sages were common men like you and me. We know about Sage Valmiki. He was Ratnakara. He was a dacoit. He had killed people. He was able to transform his life. How? Because they had the desire, the perseverance, and they did practice the discipline. And they were able to make that connection with God. And honestly, I feel Swami's made it so easy for us. And he says, I communicate with you one-on-one. It's a heart-to-heart connection between me and each and every devotee. We don't have to go to the Himalayas. We don't have to stand on one leg and do tapas for years together for Lord to appear before us. and grant our wish. He's given us a very, very simple solution. And he writes about this extensively. There are chapters dedicated to this in the Prema Vahini. No surprise, no prize for guessing. It is Namasmarana. Swami says that is the Kali Yuga sadhana. And if we look at Swami's life, the two bhajans, if I ask you, maybe if you want, you can post it in the chat window or to Brother Manohar. What are the two most frequently sung bhajans by Swami? There are many bhajans. Swami sung Chitta Chora Yashoda Ke Bal, Govinda Gopala Prabhu Giridhari, Rama 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 Sita. But if I ask you, what are the two bhajans that he sang over and over and over again? If you go to YouTube, if you pull up Satya Sai Baba singing bhajans, what is the bhajan that will appear at the end of his discourse again and again? It would be Prema Mudita Manase Kaho Rama Rama Ram and Hari Bhajana Bina Sukha Shanti Nahi. And the message is loud and clear in both of these bhajans. In Prema Mudita Manase Kaho Rama Rama Ram, Swami says, with love-filled hearts. The word mudita has a beautiful meaning. It's not just love. We may think it's love, prema-filled hearts, prema mudita manse kaho. But the word mudita has a specific meaning. Feeling love for the happiness of others, feeling happy when somebody else is happy. Human tendency is to think, oh, that person is happy. I wish I could be as happy. I wish I could have what he had. There's always a tinge of jealousy. And you may be happy for the person, but secretly you may be wishing, I wish I had that too. But prema mudita manse kaho is with full of love, genuine happiness, singing the name of Rama. Namasmarana. And in Hari Bhajana Bina Sukha Shanti Nahi, the entire bhajan, it's a long bhajan. In the bhajan, Swami sings how beautifully, how without singing to the name of the Lord, there can be no peace, no happiness, no bliss. The twin messages of love and Namasmarana. A devotee once asked Swami, Swami, how can I make best use of you? You are the avatar, and I'm a contemporary of the avatar. It's a very good question that all of us should pay very, very close attention to this answer. I heard this in another satsang. He asked Swami, how can we make the best use of the avatar? And Swami said, simple. We would have never expected. We would have thought Swami will give a list of things to follow. He said, simple. The best way you can make use of the avatar is to love him, is to show your love for him. Now, this devotee thought it was too simple of an answer. He wanted something more esoteric, something more deep and more significant. And he said, Swami, please, can you give me more clarity? Can you explain it more in depth? And then Swami asked him, he said, what is this love that we speak of? Swami drew a triangle in the air. Swami said, love is selfless, changeless, and fearless. I will repeat that. Swami said, love is selfless, changeless, and fearless. Let's think back about all the relationships we have in our lives. How many of those are truly selfless? How many of those are changeless, that haven't had any kind of change from the day we met this person until today? And how much of this love is fearless? How much do we do because of an obligation? How much do we do thinking it's an expectation? Swami says, love me. And this love is selfless, changeless, and fearless. How can we develop this kind of love for Swami? And I recently attended a study circle in another Sai Center, because in our center, the Northeast Atlanta Sai Center, our study circles and Balvikas classes are conducted in parallel. So being an SSC teacher for group 4, I'm not able to attend the study circle. So one of my friends, and now that we are remote and if all the sessions are conducted through Zoom, one of my friends, she said, you're welcome to attend the study circles at our center. And the timing works out. It's late in the evening after I've finished my responsibilities at home. So for the past several months, I've been attending study circle there. And before they have their study circle, they usually play a video. Sometimes it is Swami's, an excerpt from Swami's discourse, or sometimes it's talks by senior devotees. And this was just 2 days ago. They played a clip of Dr. Hislop's talk in St. Louis at a Sai retreat in America, in a Sai region, region 4 in St. Louis. And he talks about Swami there. And Dr. Hislop is an amazing speaker. He's extempore. The whole hour he spoke extempore. No notes. He's just standing for some time and just sitting down and addressing the devotees. It's like the Vahini. It's like a pravaham. It just flows from his mouth. And he explains a beautiful incident. He says he would carry a small tape recorder with him. If you remember in the old days, we used to have like a Walkman, a small instrument that we would carry in those days. I remember during my teenage years as a student, I would carry it and sometimes record bhajans because we didn't have the Nada Brahmams or the Bridge Across Time in those days. Just Sundaram tapes is all I had. So I would carry these little cassette players. And Dr. Hislop too used to carry this, and Swami would talk and he would press, he would record, and he would say, Swami, please repeat, I will record. He didn't want Swami to be inconvenienced. And he would carry this with him. Sometimes Swami would say, no, don't record that. Go back, don't record that. So he would use that instrument. So he asked Swami once and he said, Swami, how can we develop love for you? Sometimes we feel a lack of love. How can devotees develop this love for you? And Swami then used that example. He was in the interview room and he saw the tape recorder. And Swami said, this tape recorder was lying in the shelf in the store for such a long time, probably for months. It has been out in the market. You didn't give a second thought or feel any kind of emotion or attachment to it. But after you purchased it, after it became yours, you started taking such good care of it. You would clean. You remember in the tapes, we used to use like a head cleaner. We would insert it. Otherwise, you'll hear, you'd hear these funny sounds. Swami said, you take care of it. You ensure that it doesn't get damaged. You don't keep it near heat. You don't throw it. You make sure there's no scratches. And you protect it and you take care of it. Why do you do that? Because you feel that that tape recorder is now yours. Swami says, develop that same feeling about Swami. Develop the feeling that this is your God, your personal God, and feel that you belong to this God. Without this feeling, you may be God-fearing. I remember a lot of my peers growing up would say, Swami kanna kuttirum, Muruga will come with his veil and pierce your eyes if you don't do as it is said in the scriptures. But Swami is not somebody to fear. God is not somebody to fear. Swami would say, Papa bhiti, Daiva priti, have fear of sin, have love for God. That is what Sanghaniti, that would lead to Sanghaniti. That's what Swami would say. Develop this feeling that he is your personal God. Without this feeling, we'll just be God-fearing and we will not be God-loving. And that is something we have to tell our children, our youth. We should never threaten them. That will never work. It'll backfire, actually. People will drift away. They'll say, this is not for me. This is very cult-like. Always instill that love. And it is in order to give us this feeling of belonging that God takes avatar periodically. Swami is the Prema Swarupa. He is the one that fits the definition of embodiment of divine love. But if you look at all of his discourses, he would say, Prema Swarupulara, Divyatma Swarupulara. And that was the expectation Swami had for us. He saw that in us. Can we see it in us? Once a devotee asked Swami, we know that we love you because we feel this love, immense love in our hearts. When we see you, tears just flow automatically. We feel love for you. But how do we know that Swami is also thinking of us? How do we know that Swami also loves us? This is a bit of a foolish question, but sometimes we may think that, Swami, I am thinking of you. Are you thinking of me? We have this question sometimes, and he answers by dropping a flower or the garland swinging during bhajans, or somebody, a coincidence happening at the same time. When he asked Swami this question, I said, Swami, how do we know that you love us? Swami replied, Swami was amused. Swami smiled and he said, the very presence of love for me in your heart is a sign of my love for you. I'll repeat that. The presence of love for me in your heart is a sign of my love for you. And Swami made a declaration. He said, no one can love me without me loving them. Nobody, he says, can think of him without Swami himself loving them. And he's also said, even if 1,000 horses pull you, you cannot enter Prashanti Nilayam unless I have willed. So also if Swami has willed, nobody, no power on earth, no individual on earth, no organization on earth can prevent us from entering Prashanti Nilayam. If Swami wills it, he will allow us. He will give us that, grant us that permission. So again, to come back to that message, the very presence of Swami's love for us is a sign of his love for us. Tamil poet Manika Vasagar, he says in the Siva Puranam, he says, Sivan avan yen sindayul nindra adanal, avan arulale avan talvanangi. If I am able to come to his feet and think of him and reflect upon him, it is because of his grace. It is because he has willed it. This was said by none other than Manika Vasagar. Before I close, I would like to read 2 more excerpts from Prema Vahini. This excerpt is from chapter 27, the divine number 27. Here Swami writes, each deed is a chisel stroke shaping the rock of human personality. A wrong stroke may spoil and disfigure the rock. Therefore, even the tiniest of acts has to be done with great care and devotion. I will read that again because I think this is very, very important. Each deed is a chisel stroke shaping the rock of human personality. A wrong stroke may spoil and disfigure the rock. Therefore, even the tiniest of acts has to be done with great care and devotion. If you're climbing up a ladder and you miss one step, you're high up in the ladder. If you miss one step, you may come a few more steps behind, you may slip and fall, or God forbid, you may come crashing down to the ground. There's this game I used to play as a child. It was called Snakes and Ladders. Here in America, it's called Chutes and Ladders, where you roll the die and you move multiple players. You may be assigned a different color of coin, and you move spaces. If the die comes to 6, you move 6 spaces, 4 spaces, 1 space. At the very end, when you're getting close to the 100, at like 99 or 98, will be the tail of a serpent, which starts somewhere, lower. So if you actually end up at the head of the tail, you go down a few spaces. But if you land at this 99, which is at the tail of the snake, you are to retrace the steps and come back to where you began. One misstep, and you'd have to come back to where you started. And this can happen with accidents too. That's why they're called accidents. You're driving in the road. For 1 second, you look down at your phone. You're distracted. You try to change the tape, or you're answering the phone, or you're looking back to, maybe tell the children to be quiet and not fight. And that can cause an accident. And you may inadvertently end up hurting people, and you may end up causing a huge wreck, a chain of multiple car wreck, collision. Swami once gave an example of a roll of thread. And imagine the process of taking and winding it down. If you imagine in your mind's eye, imagine a roll of thread and imagine the process of winding it. It's such a time-consuming job. And if while you're doing it, if you get distracted or something happens and you're, you just drop it from a height, the roll will unravel. The thread will all come out loose. And Swami points out that it's such a labor-intensive, so much effort it took for you to do that. Now, of course, it's all automated. A machine does that in the factory. But if you were to actually take out from a kerchief, if you were to take out and do that, you would be doing it by hand. Swami said it's such a labor-intensive process that to get where we want to go in our spiritual path, it's a labor-intensive process. But it is also very easy to make a misstep, to falter, and to go back. And in this excerpt, he says negligence and carelessness, it is very, very harmful to a sadhaka. And we are all spiritual aspirants. That is something we have to always constantly watch for. And that is where satsang is very helpful. The fact that you have all been reading 2 chapters a day and you meet once a week in satsang. So when you read that chapter and you're clearly told by Swami what to do, what not to do. Once a speaker in a Trai session, which was informal, with a small group of devotees, it wasn't like a public discourse. A speaker was trying to quote Shakespeare's soliloquy, and he said, to be or not to be, that is the question. Swami stopped him in his tracks. And Swami said, I want you to talk about how to be and how not to be. It is very important to learn how to be, but we should also be aware of how not to be. And when we are in satsang, it becomes positive peer pressure. And we may think peer pressure usually has a negative connotation. And we tell our children, no, don't fall into peer pressure. So what if this person is smoking? So what if this person has this bad habit, is drinking and has bad habits? You don't do that. Don't fall into peer pressure. That applies to us also, right? As spiritual aspirants, when we are in company with other like-minded people. And I don't mean in any way to sound derogatory about somebody who's not in the path that Swami has shown. Even a so-called non-devotee, these are all terms we give. Who but the Lord can tell who a devotee is? We cannot call ourselves that. Swami has to call us a devotee. And when we are in satsang, our friends will tell us, hey, you missed seva today. I didn't see you in study circle, brother. Sairam, we saw it in the Sai Earth play, in one of the enactions from one of the groups. I think it was the brothers, their group. They showed beautifully where he's saying, Sairam, brother, we missed you. Is everything all right? We will check up on another person and say, yeah, I haven't seen you at the Vahini Satsang. Is everything all right? And that person, though he may feel a little obligated, he's like, no, I have been distracted. I have been doing other things. I need to come back, center myself to Swami. This reminder, that is why we are in satsang. And I'm sure that was the thinking behind the National Council starting this Vahini Satsang. In our center, we are now currently doing the Sandeha Nivarani. We picked that because it's a shorter book and it's done in a conversational style, while all the other Vahinis, other than Prashnottara Vahini, which Swami himself posed the questions and gave the answers. Where else will you find this kind of love? We are currently discussing Sandeha Nivarani, dissolving doubts. I just wanted to share that here and say that we are going through the same journey. So coming back to this point and this excerpt I read, if we are negligent, if we are careless, one misstep can take us back hundreds of steps. But Swami is all loving, all caring. He says, if you take one step towards me, I'll take 100 towards you. Professor Kasturi once, and this too is mentioned in his autobiography, Loving God, Professor Kasturi once says that he accidentally distributed the wrong question paper. I think it was supposed to be world history and he gave Indian history, or it was supposed to be Indian history and he gave another subject. So it was a big blunder, and this was at a university level. After he realized he made this mistake, he came into his cabin and he just looked at Swami's picture and said, Swami, I've committed a big blunder. Of course, Swami rescued him and found an alternative and got him out of that. And Swami, when he went to cry and thank Swami for rescuing him, Swami said, keep making mistakes, I will keep rescuing you. But that is no excuse for us to make mistakes thinking Swami will come to our rescue each time. He will, but that is not an excuse for us to make mistakes. Please permit me, I'm watching the time, still have a few more minutes. Please permit me to read another short excerpt. This is from chapter 28 of Prema Vahini. This is in continuation to what I shared earlier, the same train of thought. I quote, 20 hammer strokes might not succeed in breaking a stone, but the 21st stroke might break it. Does this mean that the 20 blows were of no avail? No. Each contributed its share for the final success. The final result was the cumulative effect of all the 21. I'll read this one more time because this is important, because I want to eventually end on a positive note. In chapter 28, Swami says, 20 hammer strokes might not succeed in breaking a stone, but the 21st stroke might break it. Does this mean that the 20 blows were of no avail? No. Each contributed its share to the final success. The final result was the cumulative effect of all the 21. 20 plus 1, 21. That is what broke it, not just the one. We've often say this, that, keep on trying, try again, try until you succeed. If you don't succeed, keep trying again and again. Don't give up. And this also applies to the spiritual practice, to our sadhana. Don't expect to become, I'm talking to my own self here, don't expect to become liberated overnight. We may think, oh, what is the use? It's going to take us a lifetime. Or we may think, oh, I've read the Prema Vahini. Now I have achieved anything. It is all taking these baby steps. It will not happen overnight. But the fact that we are here now, and we know Swami, the avatar of the universe, we've already come so far. We've come so far in this journey. And I've heard Swami say this often, that we are here because of many, many, many lifetimes, not this lifetime, many, many lifetimes of good karma. We've come so far. Swami would say, you've come so far, don't give up now. And some of us, we will say, we will conveniently put it on karma. Karma seems to be a convenient excuse for everything. Oh, it must be my karma. But Swami says karma is not like this iron cage. You're not bound. You can do something about it. And when we think and say, Swami, this is my karma, it is true. Definitely it is karma. Swami himself says, abides by the law of karma. That's true. But he has also given us the ability to divert our course. And we can do this only through our sadhana, through our actions, through our unity of thought, word, and deed. Trikarana Shuddhi, as Swami puts it. An elderly devotee once asked Swami, Swami, am I progressing in my spiritual path? And this is something I have thought of a lot. I've been an SSC teacher for 23 years, going 23 years now. And I've asked, Swami, have I become better? Am I a little better than I was yesterday? How will I ever know? So this senior devotee asked Swami, because he was practicing sadhana. He was doing his morning japa, dhyana, and he was working in the ashram. He went about his duties with, Swami would say, hands in society, head in the forest. He truly exemplified that. And this devotee was going through all of that. So he wanted to know, and he asked Swami in a personal audience. He said, Swami, am I progressing in my spiritual path, Swami? How can I tell? He asked Swami. It was a very sincere question. And in his meditation, which he would do in the early Brahma Muhurtam hours, Swami answered him in his meditation. And he said, the true measure of bhakti is the amount of peace and calmness you feel in our heart, is the amount of love we feel in our heart to others. If a situation caused us to be very angry, to react in a negative way 3 years before, but today, now that we've read the Prema Vahini, the next time the same issue, the same people rub us the wrong way, say the same hurtful things, or criticize us, or carry tales about us, gossip about us, are we still reacting the same way? When people would make fun of Swami and say, Buttatala Baba or Battatala Baba, one means basket-headed and one means bald-headed. Swami would say, why should I react? My head does look like an inverted basket. It is the truth. But if they say, oh, he's bald-headed, why should I react? I'm not bald-headed. Just ignore. Regardless, check, ignore, and move on. Have that equanimity. That is what defines a true devotee. Dr. Samuel Sandweiss here, who lives here in California and America, he authored the book. Many of you may have read it. Many, many years ago it came out. And the book is called With Love, Man is God. He originally intended for the title, he wanted to give the book the title, Man is God. But coming from a Christian background and living here in America, where majority are Christians, it is considered blasphemy almost. It would be considered, how can you say man is God? It's blasphemy, it's a sin. Here in the West, that used to be the outlook, at least before. So when he took a mock-up of the cover to Swami, where, he had the title, Man is God, and he took it to Swami, Swami just in passing, quickly in darshan, he just took the book, maybe while he was giving an audience an interview. He made it look very casual. He didn't draw his attention to anything. He just took the book and he very casually signed it. He signed With Love Baba and he returned it. It wasn't until much, much later that Dr. Sandweiss actually took a close look. He took a close look. He must have been reflecting on Swami, and he took a close look and he actually picked up the book and looked at it. And he says it wasn't until a year later that he connected the dots and had this aha moment, a eureka moment. He noticed the significance of where Swami had placed his signature. Not one word, action of Swami is without deep significance. And I have experienced this personally. I have shared this in the previous satsangs with my experiences during my accidents, and Swami using the word theek hai. He meant it in the present tense, and he didn't say, you will become all right. He said, theek hai. And at that moment, I became all right. He made it happen. He willed it to happen. Coming back to our story about this book, With Love, Man is God. When the mock-up had Man is God, Swami had signed it in such a way, the way he placed his signature, you know how Swami would say, With Love, Baba? He had put With Love, and then there's the title. The With Love was on top. With Love, Man is God, Baba. So then he said, oh, how about I give the title With Love, Man is God? He felt that is more palatable to the Western audience and that would be more acceptable. So when he got a chance to go to Swami after that, he asked Swami, Swami, is this a good title? With Love, Man is God? And very enthusiastically, Swami said, Are, this is what I have been trying to tell people all this while. With love, man is God. So I wanted to end on this positive, uplifting note. I thank you all for this opportunity. And I want to leave you with Swami's, with words from Professor Kasturi. This is a poem he wrote, and I love this very dearly. I want to leave you all with Professor Kasturi's words. He reminds us all of the road we have missed. He describes the joy of the journey's end. He opens our eyes. He strengthens our limbs. He heartens the struggling, groping his way, awakening the sleeping, making the sitting stand, the standing to walk, the walking to reach. These are beautiful words penned by Professor Kasturi. I would read it one more time. He reminds us all of the road we have missed. He describes the joy of the journey's end. He opens our eyes. He strengthens our limbs. He heartens the struggling, groping his way, awakening the sleeping, making the sitting stand, the standing to walk, the walking to reach. I thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you, sister, for sharing such beautiful thoughts. We will now move on to the question and answer sessions. Our first question is, the spiritual aspirant has two enemies. One, the conceit that one knows everything. Two, the doubt whether it is or it is not. How can we overcome these two enemies?
So, sister, you asked about ego and doubt. Is that correct?
Yes. So conceit, that's ego, yes, and doubt, whether it is or it is not.
Okay. I've heard Swami say, when there is ego, he goes. Once ego comes in, Swami is not present there anymore. He leaves that place. And about doubt, it is said, I think samshayatma vinashyate. Once you have that doubt, it becomes distraction. We are all doubting Thomases. And can you please repeat the last portion of the question?
How can we overcome these two enemies?
Okay, I think that answer is simple. The sadhana that you have undertaken, reading Swami's literature, Swami's written word. Sathya Sai speaks is Swami's spoken word, and the Vahinis are Swami's written word. Reading, engaging in sadhana, whatever spiritual practice you're undertaking it in a deeper fashion, immersing yourself in it, and being in constant satsang. And namasmarana, I cannot stress more, and Swami has stressed on it so many, many times. And he says, when you chant the name of the Lord, it's like a lamp placed at the entrance of the house. Growing up in Chennai, I remember Sandhyala around dusk, they would place a lamp. They would place a lamp. Not only does it give light to the house, it also gives light outside at that threshold. Swami says, when you have the name of the Lord on the lips, it's like that. The mouth is a threshold for the inside and outside. So in answer to that question, to overcome our ego and to keep the doubts from coming and disturbing us, constantly engage in namasmarana and whatever sadhana you might be doing. But if you may be a sevadal worker, maybe you're a part of audio video team, maybe you're part of the media team, maybe you're a part of the National Council team. You may be doing your work regularly, but other than that, that is your sadhana. But other than that, set aside some time. Start off with 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, these days, especially since the pandemic began, I have been extremely, I don't want to use the word busy, but it's been one thing after another. When Brother Manoharan reached out to me yesterday, within an hour of my discussion with him, I had a talk. I was giving a talk. I won't call it a talk. It was an enrichment workshop for SSC teachers in another Sai region here. So when he mentioned it, I immediately thought, am I going to have the time? I have read the Prema Vahini several times. We have even discussed it in study circles, but it's been several months. How can I commit to doing a satsang on the Prema Vahini when I've not read it very recently? So I said, brother, can you give me some time to come up with a topic? And he was very generous. He said, choose a topic of your choice. But after the satsang, after yesterday's satsang, I actually went and read the book. I made notes and I chose some chapters. And I thought to myself, this past year and a half, I've been so immersed in Swami's work, audio recording bhajans for the center at a regional level, at global level. And I felt, have I been slipping on my personal sadhana? And it made me think that everything Swami does is with a purpose. Why should Brother Manohar ask me? He could have asked anybody. You've had amazing speakers from around the globe. Why should he ask me? I feel it is for my own benefit, for me to look within and say, do I need to intensify my sadhana? And I realized I haven't been reading Swami's literature. I've been so focused on generating these reference tracks for bhajans, making sure the videos are edited, adding the subtitles, doing these things, making sure in the daily week-to-week operations at the center level, regional level are going on, that have I neglected the study of Swami's literature? And I told myself, I will now set aside a few minutes every day to read an excerpt from the Vahini. So I think each of us, to answer your question, how to get rid of this doubt and this ego, whatever sadhana you're doing, no matter what it is, intensify it. If you are an officer, if you're a Balvikas teacher, that is your sadhana, but that alone is not sufficient. You have to set aside time for that spiritual connection and to intensify the sadhana and namasmarana, repeatedly chanting the name of the Lord. Sairam.
Thank you, sister. Moving on to our second question. Why is it important to do sadhana?
Why is it important to do sadhana? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes. To get closer to Swami. That's the simple and easy answer. But isn't that why we are even in the spiritual path? To realize ourselves. And if self-realization, mukti, moksha is our ultimate goal, the way we can do it is by doing more sadhana. And the sadhana, as we discussed, as I mentioned multiple times, it is the different sadhanas we are doing. The purpose why we are doing this is to move closer to God, move closer and closer to God, and to move closer and closer to our divine self. Swami says, even with Balvikas, the purpose is for the latent divine qualities in that child to blossom. And I think in many ways it applies to us as adults too. We don't have to think that, the children and youth, they don't know as much as I do. In fact, in some ways, their innocence and purity, they know more than us. So to answer that question, why we have to do sadhana, it is to get in connection with our deeper self, our true self, and to get closer and closer to Swami and be that ideal version of ourselves that Swami wants. And it is a common misconception that Swami wants the best, right? Swami wants the best play. He wants the best music program. He wants the best drama. But if he wanted that, he wouldn't have given devotees like you and me. He wouldn't have given me this opportunity to come and speak. I have no credentials, except for the 3 years I spent as a Sai student. I feel I do not have the credentials to come on a platform like this and speak about Swami, to give a speech about Swami. Swami makes us worthy. And Swami shows us that with effort, you can get to where I want you to be. So we are all on this journey. Some are more realized than others. Some are at, number 3 in the snakes and ladders game, while some are at 99 and some have reached their self-realized. And we've all met and interacted with people like that. So I feel this is why we should do spiritual sadhana. Sayam.
Sayam, thank you. We are moving on to our third question now. What is the most important attribute for a bhakta?
That's a difficult question to answer. Most important attribute for a bhakta. In one of the chapters in the Prema Vahini, Swami talks about the 3 paths. Actually, in multiple chapters, subsequent chapters too, he makes a reference. He talks about the 3 paths. Now, your question to me was, what is the most important attribute for a bhakta? But I'll come back to that question momentarily. In this chapter, Swami talks about the 3 paths, the karma marga, the bhakti marga, and the jnana marga. Swami says, I can never see these as separate or even together. And he gives the example of Mysore Pak. You can never say this portion, say you divide one piece of Mysore Pak into 3 portions. You cannot say this is the weight, this is the sweetness, and he gives one more attribute. You cannot separate it. It's all together. When you take one bite of that Mysore Pak, the weight and the taste, the sweetness, everything goes in, right? So also, all the 3 paths are equally important. It's like the 3 wheels in an auto rickshaw. If one wheel is not there, it'll topple. Now, for each of us, for me, bhakti may be the front wheel, and seva and jnana may be the second wheel. For somebody who's constantly reading Sai literature, who's immersed in study circles, and that's their path. My father-in-law, in my own home, I can give you an example. I feel for my mother and I, it's the bhakti marga. It's not very complicated. We don't complicate spirituality. I simply love Swami. Swami, I know you love me. My path to you is namasmarana and devotion. For my husband, he would sing a bhajan, but his connection to Swami is through service. My father-in-law in India, for him, the path is jnana, reading Swami's literature and intensifying. So in the same family, three people may have different paths, different thing that they put as the front wheel. So you asked, what is the most important attribute for a bhakta? Depending on where you see yourself. If you are somebody who feels service is the path, intensify that. That is the most important attribute. And Swami is not going to judge and say, you spent 6 hours on seva and only 15 minutes at the Samiti during bhajans. And for a bhajan singer who's constantly doing Namasmarana, Swami won't say, he will actually say, you haven't done enough seva. I remember even when we were singing, when we were part of the different bhajan mandalis in India, a sadhana camp was arranged. Even singers from Sundaram had to attend the sadhana camp and do seva, whether it was cleaning temples or anything. Seva is equally important for anyone. Even for somebody who's deep into, say, reading Swami's literature, he cannot sit cushy in his house and say, I am here, Swami, I feel Swami within. I have all of the vahinis in my library. I don't have to go to a samiti. I don't have to participate in devotional singing. That is not the right attitude. Everything in moderation and a little bit of everything. But to answer the question, what is the most important attribute? It is in which place you are in your life. If you are somebody who gets angry very much, the most important attribute for you is to reduce that anger. If you are someone who has a lot of ego, I'm not saying any of us are like that, who feel, I'm so great, I deserve all this recognition, then the area that you have the most important attribute for you to work on is the ego, is humility. So like that, each of us has, it's not a one size fits all. At different points in different discourses and different vahinis, Swami would say, this is the most important. Like he would say, service is the most important. We've heard him say that. Service is the highest sadhana, Swami has said. Swami has said, I don't need anything. I need your simple devotion. The Gopikas, what did they do? What service did they do? Sada, they thought about Krishna. That is enough. So Swami has answered to somebody else. He said, deeply immersed in literature. That is enough for me. So where you are in your life, you have to look within. Somebody else doesn't have to point it to us. We all know our flaws. When I have taught an SSC class and come, I know if my content has landed. Same way, if I've given a talk at the end, when I go up to Swami and take Pad Namaskar, I do that before and after. And I ask myself, Swami, bless me, speak through me. Now, as soon as I'm done, I will go and do Namaskar. And I will know, I do not have to wait for a phone call from Brother Manohar or anybody from the lead team to say, Sairam sister, thank you for the talk. The content landed. I will know, each of us will know what we are doing, whether we've been truthful, whether we have work to do. So my answer to that question would be most important attribute. It is not a one size fits all. Each of us has to look within and choose what we need to work on. Sairam.
Thank you, sister. We are now moving on to our fourth question this evening. We know of 4 types of mukti, which are Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Saurujya. Can you please explain these?
I would like to focus on the final one, merging in Swami and being almost a mirror image of him. And I will, Swami, that there is a chapter which is dedicated to this. I'm sure you've read it and discussed it. But if it is all right, I would like to focus on this particular incident from the Ramayana, where Bharata, when he finishes when Lord Rama is in his exile and Bharata goes to Nandigram and he's worshipping Lord Rama's padukas, when he actually comes back to Ayodhya and the residents of Ayodhya look at Bharata, they cannot tell the difference. They actually think it is Lord Rama. Because he has been worshipping, practicing, and putting Lord Rama first, when they see Bharata, he almost looks like Lord Rama. And that is the stage Swami wants us to be in. Yes, you talked about the 4 stages. It is all the different steps. But what we have to ultimately aim for, our final goal, is to be like Swami. And Swami has said multiple times, and he's lived his message. He said, my life is my message. But at a point, he changed and said, you have to live your lives in a way that it reflects on me. When somebody sees us, how we dress, how we talk, how we interact, how we do seva as a Sai organization. And Brother Manohar is kind enough to include me in the distribution where I get to know about your updates, about the COVID seva updates. And Swami is saying, how are you doing that seva? He wants to know. By all of this, can we act in a way that is becoming of Swami? Are we serving like a Red Cross? This is not to put any other seva organization. There are many, 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 many seva organizations around the world who are doing amazing work. And if you actually calculate, they may be doing a lot more than the Sathya Sai Seva organization is doing. But it is not how much we have done, it is with what intent we have done. When we are worshipping Swami, it's moving one step closer and closer. So my answer to that question is, our ultimate goal should be in becoming Swami. That doesn't mean wearing a robe and giving darshan and materializing things. It means when people see us, they should know what we are made of. In fact, they should look at us and go, I want to become a Satya Sai Baba devotee because I see how this person is conducting themselves. I see how those Bal Vikas children are behaving. There is something special about them. What is it? Satya Sai Baba is their role model. They are trying to be like him because he wanted them to become like him. He wanted us to become our highest version of ourselves. I think that should be our final goal. Sairam, sister.
Thank you. Moving on, our next question is, how can the Lord strengthen the qualities in man if they are non-existent?
That is a very interesting question. It is almost pessimistic. I might ask you to repeat it a little later if I get digressed. It's human tendency. We all go through this where we say, I'm not good enough. And we self-deprecate and we say, I will never make Swami's bar. Swami's set this bar so high. And there is this beautiful example. I shared this yesterday in the SSC workshop with this other region in California. The warden of the boys' hostel at one point goes to Swami and he says, Swami, I'm really struggling to control the boys. Your bar is so high and the goal is so lofty that the boys are struggling to make it. And I'm finding, because of the age, I'm finding it to control. What should I do, Swami? Your goals are so lofty. And Swami tells him, as a guru, it is your duty, it is your dharma to set the highest bar. If you were a math teacher, you know that not every student is going to get 100. Some are possibly going to fail. Some would get first class, some would get second class. It's a given. It's very rare that all of the students in a class pass out with flying colors. But Swami says, as a teacher, will you go and say, I know not all of you are going to score 100. I know these two boys in this class, you have very good potential. Come, I will teach you separately. No good teacher will do that. Swami is like that with all of us. He holds all of us to this high bar and gives the same messaging to all of us, right? And he wants us to get to that highest bar, like a math teacher wants everybody to score 100, knowing fully well that not everybody will make that bar. I don't know if this question came from that place of, I am not good enough. I cannot comment on that. But when we have these questions, when we have these doubts, we don't have to look very far. Take any discourse that Swami has given. Patiently sit down. You can actually listen to the discourses without any translation too. It's the language of the heart that matters. Even if you don't understand Telugu, something will land. Just listen to an entire discourse. Typically, what I have noticed, in the beginning, Swami will start by saying, Divyatma Swarupulara, Prema Swarupulara, embodiments of divine love, embodiments of the divine Atma. So he starts off every discourse equating us to him, that we are God, the God self. And somewhere in the middle, he will say, you are not not an animal. So he starts off by saying, you are God yourself. Midway, he would start saying, you are man, you are not an animal. And at some point in some discourses, he's given us blastings and he said, how can you behave like this? You're not an animal. You're worse than an animal. Fish is better than selfish. And then he will always circle it back to, you are divine. Realize that. So within a discourse, within an excerpt, within that messaging, even in interviews, I've seen this happen with students. He scolded them, but then they would think, Swami would say it's Kopam Prasadam. Even that is Swami's love. Swami would say, I'm not Vishwamitra, the sage who's known to give curses very freely. He would say, I'm Vishwas Mitra. I'm the friend of the universe. So the point I was trying to make is, we have the potential to be our highest self. But again, it all comes back to sadhana. And at a previous satsang, we talked about how silence is the foundation. Turn out the clutter, turn down the noise. Even online, turn down the noise. We don't only take in from our eyes and our mouth. We don't only consume through our mouth. When we watch the news, constant negativity, even that feeds into it. And that every advertisement we watch on TV makes us feel like we are not good enough. We are not beautiful enough. We are not intelligent enough. So do not go into that downward spiral of, being self-deprecating. Dr. Goldstein, who's served in the organization for many, many decades, he was continuously holding a position in the organization until Swami asked other people to step up. He shares that one of the earliest darshans he had when he was in the mandir, I'm watching the time, when he was in the mandir, the bhajans were going on, and at some point he went back and thought about his past. He had been a musician and he felt he had not led a life that is worthy of being called a Sai devotee. He just put his head down and he had tears. And he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Swami. And Swami was saying, past is past. Past is past. Twice Swami repeated. He said, what is done is done. Don't go on thinking about what has happened. Now we are here. Today, at this point, we have undertaken the sadhana. You've made a decision to tune into this satsang and connect with Swami. Even if you have led your life in a way that is unbecoming of a Sai devotee, today we can tell ourselves and make that change. Again, sister, can you please repeat the question one more time? I want to connect it back.
How can the Lord strengthen the qualities in man if they are non-existent?
Yes, we have to strengthen the qualities, and do not tell yourself these are non-existent. That is why I was trying to make the point of Swami saying we are all divine. By us saying these are non-existent in us, we are actually, what we are doing is telling Swami, I know better than you. I'm not worthy of being saved. Or this person, even worse, one, it's wrong to self-deprecate. Even worse, it is to tell, Swami, this person is a gone case. It's a lost. Don't bother. There is nothing you can do for them, Swami. That is the wrong attitude to have. So with effort, everybody can get there, and we are all divine. Do not forget that. Sairam, I hope that answers that question, sister.
Yes, thank you. Our next question is, what did Swami mean by saying Sanatana Dharma?
Yes. Sanatana Dharma these days is being loosely translated as Hinduism. And it's actually the other way around. Hinduism can be called Sanatana Dharma. It's not the other way. And no matter what religion one follows, the eternal teachings of the Lord, when they are applied in life, that becomes Sanatana Dharma. That becomes a way of life. And in this context of religious context, the word Sanatana Dharma, it's a way of life. It is not a religion. One can be a non-devotee. One can be an atheist even, and be following Sanatana Dharma, be following the values that Swami has laid out, the teachings that Swami has given, his message, following that. One can be a non-Sai devotee and could be doing all the good work, could be living a good life, practicing all of Swami's values, doing seva. And Swami has assured that even a person like that would get self-realization. So that is my interpretation of Sanatana Dharma. And I do remember reading Swami mentioning that in the Prema Vahini too. I hope that that is just my interpretation of the word Sanatana Dharma. When somebody asks, you must be Hindu, you must be Brahmin. When somebody says that, I say, I follow the path of Sanatana Dharma. That is how and when we connect as individuals in a samiti, you may have a Buddhist, you may have a Christian, you may have somebody from the Islamic background. We are all practicing. We may all come from these different backgrounds, these different religious backgrounds, but we are all on the same path, and that is Sanatana Dharma. Those are my humble thoughts. Back to you, sister.
Thank you. Vanaprastha. Will it be applicable to us in modern life?
Okay, so technically speaking, Vanaprastha, I'm just sharing what is coming to my mind. And I'm sure if I had maybe a half hour to go through again, I'm sure my answers would be different. But I'm just sharing what Swami is prompting me to share. The literal meaning of Vanaprastha is after a person has been through the stages of Brahmacharya and Grihastha, after living the life of a bachelor and going through the process of learning, and then getting into family life, wife, husband, children, and then once the children have reached a certain stage, going away to the Himalayas or going and settling down in an ashram and doing constant sadhana, only thinking about God and practicing meditation, japa. Because if you go to a busy working mother, she cannot spend an hour in meditation or she cannot spend an hour in devotional singing every day. But once the children are, settled in life, the person can go into the stage of Vanaprastha and do that. But what Swami says is Vanaprastha does not mean going away to the forest, abandoning your duties, quitting your job, and going and living there and doing the rosary beads. Swami said for the Kali Yuga, that may have worked in the Treta Yuga, in other yugas, but for the Kali Yuga, the age of vice, Swami says, hands in society, your head in the forest. And that is not restricted to when you become a senior citizen. I know of children that I look at them and say, you are so realized. I still have miles to go. Hands in society, head in the forest. I would like to share an example. This is an incident. This was the father of one of the professors in Swami's Institute. He had finished all of his responsibility as a grihastha. He was a very devout man. Swami gave him a job in the ashram and he was doing his job. He went to Swami one day and he said, Swami, I have come here for you. Now I'm at a stage where I feel I do not need this. I have saved enough. My children are well settled. You are taking care of them. And my wife has passed on. Now will you allow me to go to the Himalayas and, go and do my sadhana there, which is in effect what you're asking about, the Vanaprastha stage. Now will you give me, I need your permission, Swami. Can I please go to the Himalayas? And Swami asked him, why do you want to go to the Himalayas? And he says, Swami, to get closer to you. Swami said, you're sitting under my nose in the interview room. How much closer do you want to get? And even if your intent is to get closer to me, I am telling you right here, stay here and do my work, keep doing your sadhana, and you will reach me. Is that sufficient? So Swami guided this person, and he, of course, eventually let go of his desire. Even that is a desire, wanting to do that, wanting to move to an ashram. Saying, I don't want something is also a desire. Saying, oh, I don't want this is a desire. Saying, I want something, both are equally a desire. Do as Swami wills. So I wanted to quote this incident to say, this gentleman fit the bill of Vanaprastha stage. He had finished all of his responsibility. Swami guided him and said, continue to do your duty, continue to do your work in the ashram and in the mornings. And this, what is even more beautiful is, Swami told him this. He said, every morning you don't have to do any intense sadhana. He said, get up in the morning, drink your coffee, strong coffee, take your chair and put it outside. He used to live in East Prashanti. Put your chair outside. Every devotee that walks back and forth, tell yourself, the same Swami in you resides in me. The same divinity in you resides in me. So Swami didn't actually mean that he had to go and do it, but he was trying to explain that see divinity in all. Then you've reached that stage of Vanaprastha. And I know we are getting close to the 9 o'clock mark. I turn it back to you, sister.
Thank you, sister. We have 3 more questions. Are you okay for us to continue?
Yes, as long as you are okay. I know it's getting late in the night. For me, it's still only noon here.
Okay, so I'll move on to our next question. Why does the Lord incarnate in human form?
I think I answered this question at the very, very beginning about the story about Akbar, who's a Mughal emperor. He asks, maybe the devotee who asked this question, maybe they missed that portion. It's worth repeating. Maybe Swami wants me to repeat that in case some others tuned in a little later. I know 8 o'clock is dinner time for many of you. So I'll repeat that. The question was, why does God incarnate in human form? Is that correct, sister? Did I say that correctly?
Yes, sister.
Okay. So the story I narrated at the very beginning, before I even went into the discussion about the Prema Vahini, was the Mughal Emperor Akbar asks his minister Birbal, he says, why is it that in Hinduism they believe in this concept of avatar and God coming down as an avatar when he can order anybody to do his work? Why should God himself come down? Which in effect is the question that is being asked. Why does God incarnate and walk as up here, as a contemporary? We are contemporaries of the Lord. Why should God do that? And the emperor tells Birbal, don't just give me a theoretical answer. I want you to give me a very convincing answer that makes me understand it clearly. And Birbal decides to take an extreme step. In the coming days, he asks for time. In the coming days, when they are in the palace doing a leisurely boat ride, Birbal arranges for something to fall off the boat. Now, this structure looks exact, it's of the exact likeness of King Akbar's son. Naturally, King Akbar tries to jump into the lake to rescue this, what he believed was his child. And that's when Birbal stops him and he says, oh Lord, oh Jahampana, it's not your son. It is a doll made in the likeness of your son. And the emperor is angered and he said, why would you pull such a cruel prank on me? And then he says, oh Lord, you asked me to give you a convincing answer, and I hope this is convincing. You jumped into the lake to rescue your son, and why did you do that? You could have called on me. I'm sitting 2 feet from you. There is a boatman who's rowing the boat. You could have called any of your guards. Why did you jump in yourself? He says, it's because this is my son. I love my son. And to answer your question, why does God incarnate? We are all children of God. He sees all of us as his children. And when he sees the need, when dharma is declining, when he sees what is happening, he feels that there is an acute need and he wants to come and intervene himself. Don't we call on Swami every day? Swami, I have given up. Draupadi did that. Gajendra did that. They tried their level best and at some point they gave up. Even doctors tell us, I have done my best. Now it is up to God's hands. God, we want God to come and intervene. And this is why God incarnates. He wants to make himself relatable to us. If we put him up in a pedestal, we decorate these beautiful altars, we make the most beautiful garlands. Swami says, I don't need your flowers and fruits that you offer me. You can buy these with a few annas. What I need is your Hridaya Pushpam. Offer your heart. In order for us to feel kinship, to answer your question, it is because he looks at us as his own children. That is why he came down. And there's another reason. He wants us to feel kinship with him. He doesn't want us to put him in a pedestal and go, oh, that is unreachable. I will never be able to reach him. There are millions of videos on YouTube where Swami is joking around. He's patting somebody on the cheek. He's giving somebody a kottu and he's saying, hey, to somebody. And he's making pranks. And he becomes a family member and we feel that he's relatable. I think it is for this reason that the Lord incarnates, and also to show us that we can come up to his level. The incident from Swami's childhood, where the skeptic teacher makes little Sathya stand up on the bench, and the teacher Mehboob Khan comes in, and he realizes that this is probably the reason the teacher is stuck to the chair, and he says, make Sathya get down and you'll be able to get up. There is a deeper significance. When the Lord descends, we ascend. So the reason for the Lord descending upon the earth as an avatar is so we will rise up to his level. These are my humble thoughts that came to me at the moment.
Thank you, sister. Our next question, is it necessary to identify one suitable path and follow that particular path, or is it okay to follow a mix of all 3 paths and continue to intensify?
Yes, I will answer. I did address this a little bit earlier to one of the questions you had asked, and I digressed a little bit and talked about the 3 paths, karma, bhakti, and jnana marga. So I won't repeat that, but I will share this with another example. Sister, can you please repeat the question one more time? I had a flow of thought. Can you please repeat that?
Is it necessary to identify one suitable path?
Okay, I'm good. So the question is, should I choose one path And if so, is there a preferred path? Or do I need to do a mix of all three? I think that is the question. And as I earlier mentioned, the three paths, the karma, bhakti, and jnana marga, are like the three wheels in an auto rickshaw. And it will topple if even one is not there. So one way for me to answer this would be to say all three, a mix of all three. But in one of the chapters where Swami compares the three margas to a Mysore Pak, you can just, when you pull it up, you can search by the word Mysore Pak. Swami explained this very beautifully, so I won't repeat that. You may have already discussed that. But I will share this with, I had a train of thought. I wanted to share this one story. Yes, I remembered. Many of you may have heard of Sri Kamavadani Garu. He was so proficient in the Vedas, which is obviously the Bhakti Marga, the path of devotion, of Namasmarana, of chanting. He was so proficient in the Vedas that he could recite it backwards. Even Ganapati Prarthana, if I say Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha in reverse, it'll take us a moment to do it. He could recite the Vedas backwards. That is how proficient he was. There was an incident once, Sri Nanjundaya, and I'm explaining this through a narrative because sometimes I personally remember things better, remember morals better through stories. And hopefully you can connect this back to the question that is being asked about the three paths. As I established, Sri Kamavadani Garu was of the Bhakti Marga. He had followed the Bhakti Marga. Once, Professor Nanjundaya, who during my time as a student was a controller of examinations, he expressed to Swami that when once Swami was inside, Swami was getting ready for darshan, he was taking a shower, and Sri Kamavadani was standing outside and chanting he was chanting the Aruna Prashnam. The Lord Shiva himself is taking a shower, is taking snanam, Abhishekam is going on, and outside he was reciting the Arunam. And Sri Nanjundaya felt, I don't know the Vedas. I'm just a teacher in Swami's university. I do a little bit of seva here and there, read a little bit of literature. And I'm mentioning this because he did do some of the Jnana Marga. He was reading Swami's literature. He's an amazing speaker, by the way. He's an amazing speaker. He used to translate for Swami. So he had been practicing the Jnana Marga. And he was doing karma because he was a teacher in Swami's Institute. And obviously he would have done a little bit of praying too, if not a lot. So he felt, I will never be able to recite the Vedas like that. Do I have any hope in this world? Swami came out from the shower and he asked both Professor Nanjundaya and Sri Kamavadani, they are both present. Swami just comes out and very casually, nonchalantly, looks at Sri Kamavadani and asks, Kamavadani, if somebody cannot recite the Vedas, they don't know a lick of Vedas, they don't have a singing voice, is there any hope for a person like that? And Sri Kamavadani answers and says, yes, Swami, all they have to do is reflect on you, and whatever they're doing, they have to do. In Tamil, we say, Seivana Tirundache. Whatever it is you're doing, do it properly. And he answered that. Think about it. Somebody who's so deeply immersed in the Bhakti Marga said, no, Swami, by doing your seva too, somebody can reach you. By reading, by immersing themselves in the Jnana Marga also, they can reach you. That shows his magnanimity, despite being a scholar. Typically, we would say, if you ask a seva coordinator, they'd say, seva is the best wing in the organization. An educational coordinator would say, no, studies, Balavikas, study circle, that is the best way. And a devotional coordinator would say, Swami has said devotion is the best way. But it is not a one size fits all. To answer your question, it is not necessary to only focus on one path. At the same time, as in that chapter, Swami explains, he won't even say it's a mix of all. It is not a one size fits all. Each person has to look within. And I know I'm repeating myself, but that is what Swami is prompting me to say now. Sairam.
Thank you. And now we move on to our last question. What can we do to control our mind when we get distracted from our studies?
So this must be from a young student, either a Balvika student or a youth member. You specifically said, what can we do to control the mind? And Swami gives a beautiful, only Swami can do these play of words, and he can explain the most esoteric things, the highest of spiritual principles, the highest of Vedanta. Only Swami can explain it in a way that a 6-year-old can understand. A 6-year-old child in group 1 can understand. and a PhD scholar, a senior devotee can understand. Your question was how to control the mind when you're trying to focus on studies, or studies is just an example, when you're trying to focus on anything else for that matter, how to control the mind. And Swami does a beautiful play on the word nartaki. He says, this mind is like this nartaki. Nartaki is a literal translation for a dancer. You can control this by doing kirtana. Nartaki, he reverses and he says kirtana. So when your mind is going hither and thither, he says, do namasmarana, kirtana, singing the name of the Lord, and it'll bring you back to the Lord. Say you're studying continuously, you have an exam coming up and you're cramming. The more you cram, I think the more you'll be stressed about it. And the break you can take is not by going watching a show on Netflix or calling a friend and asking them to meet them for dinner or lunch. It is by tuning into bhajans. And Swami's made it so easy during the pandemic. At every given hour during the weekend, I'm sure there is some samiti in Sri Lanka that is having live bhajans. Or you can tune into the previously recorded sessions. Just listen to a recording of Sundaram bhajan or your own bhajans, which are very beautiful, which I truly love. So again, coming back to answer your question, what to do to control the mind? It is through whatever sadhana you may be doing already, and definitely by doing namasmarana, by doing kirtana. Control the nartaki of the mind through kirtana, namasmarana, and intensifying the sadhana. Sairam.
Thank you, sister. We have now come to the conclusion of this wonderful satsang. And on behalf of the National Council and all participants, our heartfelt gratitude to Swami for sending his instruments, Sister Anu. And Sister Anu, we have to especially thank you for agreeing to do this satsang within a day's notice. And we also thank you for having taken the time to conduct this satsang for us, despite the time differences. May Swami's blessings be upon you and your loved ones, sister. We will now end this session with closing prayers. Jai Sai Ram.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Samastalokaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaah Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.